Hello everyone, Ali Wolf here, the Chief Economist with Zonda, here to go through your November Builder Update. Now, as a reminder, these are preliminary results that come from our Division President Survey, and we want to give you the timely take on what's happening on the ground. Now, for the past few months, I've given an update to say what is the word that describes the month that just ended. And in this case, for November, what I would say is on track. In fact, we had 71% of builders that said their demand was on track with their expectations. We had an even split between those saying demand had exceeded expectations or demand was slower than what they expected, but again, the number to keep in mind is 71. We had 50% of builders saying their sales were flat month over month from October to November. You actually had 30% of builders that said their sales had improved. And again, think about the time frame here. So that's impressive to see so many that are either flat or higher. These sales are not largely driven by incentives. There are some incentives in the marketplace, mostly around the idea of closing costs, but the dollar amounts are not huge, nor is the existence and the presence of these incentives across the country. What's most important about these sales is when we're looking at these figures, they're still being influenced by 77% of builders intentionally throttling their sales. This is something we've been talking about for months and months, and it comes down to the idea that demand is exceeding production capacity. So we're seeing it in two main ways. Main way one is, well, a builder could sell a certain amount of homes, but they're choosing to sell not as many. The others is when builders are intentionally manipulating when they sell their home because they need to know how long is it going to take. And we'll talk about that later, where it's a lot harder to forecast how long it takes a home from start to completion. And that, of course, will impact customer service, and builders and consumers don't really want to fall into an environment where you don't know when the homes are going to ultimately get delivered. When we're looking at this data, we still, and I'm honestly surprised about this, have 66% of builders that raised prices month over month. The bulk of these price increases come between the $3,000 and $5,000 price range. So we've talked before about the shift to the left. We've now kind of found this sweet spot of where the majority of the price increases are. But as we look at these numbers, do know that it's going to depend on community. It's going to depend on location. There are a lot of really large price increases that are still happening. And in fact, there's still some builders that are actually cutting prices in today's environment. So that becomes a very specific story. As we look at the trends and the concerns that come in the market, hesitancy from buyers still there, and that notable increase that still isn't that high, but I think it's on our one of the tops of our watch list, which is the idea that a fifth of builders are saying that they are having some buyer qualification issues. And why this is on our watch list is many of you know that our forecast here at Zonda is that price increases do continue to go up from here. We also believe that interest rates are more likely to go up than down, though we're not calling for a rapid increase in interest rates based on what we know today. That is similar to what we're seeing from builders. We have 40% of builders that think prices will go up between 1 and 5% next year, so 2022 over 2021. And we have 40% of builders, a different 40% of builders that think prices will go up between 6 and 10%. Now, when we talk about the forecast for sales or forecast for price, what we obviously have to think about is what role do we have to pay attention to community count and increased inventory? Because that's one thing I should have mentioned earlier. When we talked about 30% of builders saying sales increased month over month from October to November, there were some comments of builders saying this is partly because we opened a new community and our community count is starting to trend up. And that's been our belief for a while. We do think throughout 2022 we will see more new home inventory and new home communities opening up. But we also need to be very cognizant of the delays that are continuing to occur. So for example, we have 63% of builders that said their cycle time is significantly longer than what it was in the past. And we have 34% of builders that are saying their cycle times are slightly higher than where they were in the past. Now, for the top worries really come down to everything we've talked about in today's presentation, which is we're seeing building material availability, still a big concern, followed by building material cost. Then you're running into problems with labor availability, new home affordability, and land prices. So we'll be back to talk about the state of the market in December, but for now, that's all. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or visit zondahome.com to learn more. Thank you.